Yeah, hi Viral. Good evening.
Hi, Parth. Good evening.
This is basically for the Malaysia e-invoicing. Like you are aware, like majority of countries have started opting for the e-invoicing,
Yes.
and Malaysia is one of them.
Yes.
And you have been integral part since inception. Around of couple of questions. So starting from under what circumstances e-invoice needs to be issued, and what is the impact in the current format, or I would say before the e-invoicing has come into the picture in Malaysia?
Okay. So I would rather answer this into two parts. With respect to the impact that the organizations would be having, it all starts from the data source. So e-invoicing comes with compliance related requirements, and there are predefined format or the structure of the invoice that needs to be reported to the LHDN. LHDN is their tax authority part. So there are two parts of it. One is the compliance level part, and second is structuring the data as per the government's mandate. So the data which comes out of the source ERPs from the taxpayer's point of view,
Yeah.
it isn't necessarily always accurate. It needs to be extracted, it needs to be massaged,
Of course.
it needs to be converted into a format where your service provider absorbs the data and is capable of sending the data to the government. So the real challenge begins there.
Hmm.
Adoption of changes into the technology is always a time consuming thing. Though it's a one time activity, and once adopted, it
Mhm.
basically streamlines the processes. With respect to, generation of the e-invoices, well, now it's a mandate in Malaysia. So every company has to adapt to it.
Right.
There are two parts in Malaysia where a taxpayer can go through. One is via people route, which is MDAC. Again, the submission of the same to the tax authority remains as a part of even people framework.
Right.
And even if they want to simply report or pass the invoices to the government, that also they can do directly using the LHDN APIs. Now there's a
Right.
clearance model which is there in Malaysia. Reporting of the invoices will not suffice.
Correct. So there was one more question which is related to the like LSDN and the standard text authority approach as well. So what do you see like where LSDN approach stands and PayPal approach in terms of the maybe complexity, or rather I would say the simplicity of their own structure?
So when we talk about a people-based approach, it is via MDAC. See, adhering to the people framework constitutes of a lot of parts. Like there needs to be a service provider you need to enroll to. There has to be an access point. There has to be an SMP, though Malaysia has its own SMP. There are hops which are required to be adhered to before passing the data to the buyer.
Right.
Honestly speaking, adopting to people framework may not be a challenge, but this will be more useful to the companies who are established globally across Europe and have their branches,
Right.
or divisions in Malaysia, and they still want to go with the people route.
Oh.
And I think slowly and steadily across the globe, wherever e-invoicing is being brought forward, majority of the companies are following the people based approach. It's secure, it's via AS4 protocol,
Right.
and it has its own benefits wherein submission of the invoice to the buyer is acknowledged, etc. Buyer's access point is acknowledged. So yes, there are its own benefits. With respect to the LHDN approach, it's quite straightforward. So it's an API that has been provided by LHDN, which any service provider can consume, and taxpayer can furnish the data, and all the clearance related part happens from the government itself. So it's quite a straightforward approach. Once the data is uh, catered to with respect to service provider specification or LHDN specification directly, the e-invoices can be generated quite in a seamless manner.
Correct. So in a way, taxpayer should decide that depending on their cross-border transaction and their presence,
Correct.
and the number of transaction varieties of document types,
Yes.
they should decide that whether to go ahead with the PayPal or standard approach.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough. One more concept related to the consolidated e-invoice. So if you can put some lights, that would be great. In which scenarios?
Okay. So consolidation of e-invoice probably is used in somewhere like self-billing part, and there are couple of other transactions also involved into it. Rather, while the e-invoicing was made live at that time, government extended the capability for the taxpayers that if they don't want to report it on a transaction level, even the normal transaction which falls into B2B, etc., can also be furnished in a consolidated level. So, generation of a consolidated invoices doesn't need to be furnished at a line item level. So it's something like you can group the tax amounts and the document values of the similar kind of invoices together,
Okay.
and furnish it to the Malaysian authority. So that's also a part of it.
Okay. Fair enough. And probably we may conclude with one last question that in
Sure.
terms of the overall performance and the experience. So like we went live since August 2024. Probably like phase 2 or phase 3 we are into it. So what you have observed in the phase 1, phase 2 in terms of the performance, and what experts are suggesting, if you can put some light, that would be great.
Okay. So honestly speaking, Malaysia, what I have observed is adapting basis people or MDAC is quite slow.
Okay.
Not many companies are adhering to it. One of the reason might be due to the fact that the alternative approach is available, and the alternative approach seems to be seamlessly working for the governments via just the API integrations. Also, the pressure of onboarding themselves and mandating the e-invoicing guidelines, that can be quicker via the LHDN route. That can be one of the parts. Apart from that, there is a portal which is made available by the government
My
itself.
invoice. Yeah.
My invoice portal, yes. So that is also kind of a helpful tool for the smaller SMEs and MSMEs to go and simply create and generate the invoices from there. So due to availability of the alternatives, I suppose, and a quicker way of transforming and generating the invoices, there is not much deviation towards the people framework route.
Okay.
So, but I believe somewhere down the line, as and when more countries adopt to it, like if we talk about the same Asia related facts of e-invoicing, Singapore is going with the people route. So there might be chances where, as people leverages the more cross-border transactions within across the globe, larger adoption in a longer run may happen with respect to the people framework.
Right. So probably the simpler approach at the moment is standard X
Yes.
authority LSDN approach, and that is the reason. So that they'll not need to put the more number of resources from that specific organization in terms of achieving all those, 4 corner approaches, 5 corner approaches we have seen in other countries. So that is the main reason. Yeah, probably that should be it for today. And thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.